The grand ballroom of the Riverside Hotel glittered with crystal chandeliers and candlelight. Naomi stood at the entrance in her deep blue evening gown, the one she'd spent weeks choosing, the one that made her feel beautiful and confident. She'd had her hair styled at the salon that morning, her natural curls swept into an elegant updo. She'd wanted everything to be perfect for tonight, her husband Derek's company gala. She spotted Derek across the room, laughing with a group of men in expensive suits. He looked handsome in his tuxedo, and for a moment she remembered why she'd fallen in love with him 10 years ago. She started walking toward him, her heels clicking on the marble floor. "Derek," she called out, smiling. He turned and his expression shifted. Not to happiness or pride, but to something else. Annoyance. Embarrassment. "Naomi," he said, his voice tight. "I didn't think you'd actually come." "Of course I came. You said it was important." She reached for his hand, but he pulled away. One of the men in the group looked between them, confused. "Derek, is this?" "This is Naomi," Derek interrupted. "An old friend." The words hit her like a physical blow. Old friend. Not wife. Not partner. Not the woman who'd supported him for 10 years while he built his career. "Derek, what are you?" "Listen, the VIP table is full," he said, not meeting her eyes. "It's for investors, board members, important people. You'll need to sit with the staff families. The table's in the back." Naomi felt her face grow hot. Around them, people were starting to notice. Starting to watch. "You're joking." "I'm not. This is a professional event." "I can't have..." He stopped himself, but she heard the unspoken words. "I can't have you embarrassing me." "I'm your wife," she said quietly, trying to keep her voice steady. One of the men in the group cleared his throat uncomfortably. Derek's jaw clenched. "Can we not do this here? Please? Just sit where they tell you to sit. We'll talk later." Before she could respond, a woman approached. She was young, maybe 25, with smooth pale skin and blonde hair styled in perfect waves. She wore a red dress that probably cost more than Naomi's mortgage payment. She slipped her arm through Derek's with easy familiarity. "Derek, darling, they're about to start dinner," the woman said, her voice sweet and innocent. Then she noticed Naomi. "Oh, hello. I'm Vanessa, Derek's executive assistant." Executive assistant. Naomi had heard that title before in passing. Derek had mentioned hiring someone new to help with his workload. But he'd never mentioned that his executive assistant looked like a model. Or that she'd be his +1 tonight. "Naomi," she managed to say, extending her hand. Vanessa shook it with a grip that was just a little too firm, a little too confident. "Nice to meet you. Are you one of the investors?" Vanessa asked, her eyes sweeping over Naomi's dress with barely concealed judgment. Derek started. "I'm his wife," Naomi said firmly, looking directly at Derek. Vanessa's eyes widened, and she looked at Derek with confusion. "Your wife? But you said..." "It's complicated," Derek cut her off. He turned to Naomi, his voice dropping to an angry whisper. "Can you please just go sit down? You're making a scene." Naomi looked around. More people were watching now. A server approached with a seating chart and gestured toward the back of the ballroom, where smaller tables were set up far from the stage and the action. "Right this way, ma'am," the server said politely. "I'll show you to your table." Naomi stood frozen for a moment, humiliation washing over her in waves. Derek had already turned back to his group, Vanessa still on his arm. He was laughing at something someone said, as if Naomi had already ceased to exist. She followed the server to the back of the room, past tables full of executives and investors, past the beautiful centerpieces and the ice sculptures, past the life she thought she'd been building with Derek. The staff family table was crowded with the spouses and children of security guards, cleaning staff and junior employees. They were nice people, kind people, but Naomi knew why she'd been put here. Derek was ashamed of her. She sat down in an empty chair, her hands shaking. Across the room she could see the VIP table. Derek sat at the center, Vanessa beside him. She was leaning in close, whispering something in his ear. He smiled. His hand rested on the back of her chair, casual and comfortable. A woman next to Naomi introduced herself as the wife of a maintenance worker. She was friendly, trying to make conversation, but Naomi could barely hear her over the roaring in her ears. She watched as dinner was served, first to the VIP tables, then to everyone else. She watched as Derek stood to give a speech about vision and leadership and dedication. "I want to thank everyone who supported me," Derek said into the microphone, his voice confident and strong. "Especially my incredible team who've stood by me through everything." His eyes swept the room but never landed on Naomi. Not once. And a special thank you to Vanessa, whose dedication and hard work have been invaluable to me personally, he continued. Vanessa beamed up at him from her seat. Naomi felt something break inside her. Not her heart, that had been cracking for months now, in small ways she tried to ignore. No, this was something deeper. This was her dignity, her self-respect, her belief that she mattered. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands and texted her best friend Angela. I need you. Now. The response came immediately. On my way. Where are you? Riverside Hotel. Main ballroom. I'll meet you outside in 5 minutes. Naomi stood up, mumbling an excuse to the nice woman beside her. She walked out of the ballroom, past the glittering chandeliers and the happy couples and the life she'd thought was hers. In the bathroom, she locked herself in a stall and finally let herself cry. But even as tears ran down her face, something else was happening. Something cold and clear was settling in her chest. Derek had humiliated her. He'd hidden her away like she was nothing. He'd paraded another woman on his arm in front of everyone. And he was going to pay for it. She didn't know how yet. But as she wiped her tears and fixed her makeup in the mirror, Naomi made herself a promise. She would not be the woman who sat in the back and accepted this. She would not be the wife who went home and pretended everything was fine. She was going to find out exactly what Derek was hiding. And when she did, she was going to destroy him. Angela arrived 20 minutes later, finding Naomi sitting on a bench in the hotel garden, her expensive dress pooling around her like a blue ocean. Tell me everything, Angela said, sitting down beside her. And Naomi did. She told her about the humiliation, about Vanessa, about the way Derek had called her an old friend. About the way he'd looked at her like she was an embarrassment. When she finished, Angela was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, You know what you need to do, right? What? You need to find out what he's really up to. Because men like Derek don't act this way unless they're hiding something big. Naomi nodded slowly. Angela was right. The Derek she'd married 10 years ago wouldn't have done this. Something had changed. Something was wrong. I know a private investigator, Angela continued. He's discreet, professional, and he's good. Let me call him tomorrow. I don't have money for that. Everything is in Derek's name, Naomi said, her voice bitter. Angela smiled grimly. Honey, if what I suspect is true, you're going to get a lot more than just your money back. That night, Naomi went home to their expensive house in the suburbs. Derek didn't get back until after 2 in the morning. She pretended to be asleep, listening to him stumble around in the dark. He smelled like expensive perfume. Not hers. The next morning she made him breakfast like always. She smiled and asked about the gala. He gave vague answers and left quickly, saying he had an early meeting. When his car pulled out of the driveway, Naomi picked up her phone and called the number Angela had sent her. Hello, this is Mitchell Investigations. Hi, Naomi said, her voice steady and clear. I need you to follow my husband. 3 months earlier, Naomi had been happy. Or at least she thought she was happy. Looking back now, she could see the signs she'd missed. The late nights Derek claimed were work. The business trips that seemed to multiply. The way he'd stopped telling her about his day. The way he'd moved their money around without explanation. But 3 months ago, she'd still believed in their marriage. She'd still believed Derek when he said he was building their future. It started with a credit card statement. Naomi had been organizing their mail on a Tuesday afternoon when she opened an envelope addressed to Derek. It was an accident. The statement was for a credit card she didn't know existed. She almost put it aside, but something made her look closer. The charges made her blood run cold. Morton's Steakhouse, $430. The Peninsula Hotel, $850. Cartier, $3,200. Hermes, $4,500. The list went on. Charges at expensive restaurants she'd never been to. Hotels in their own city. Jewelry and clothing from stores Derek knew she loved but never took her to anymore. The total for just 1 month was over $40,000. They had money. Derek made good money as the chief operations officer at his company. But $40,000 in a single month on secret purchases? That wasn't right. Naomi's hands shook as she took photos of every page. Then she carefully put the statement back in its envelope and placed it on Derek's desk, exactly where it had been. She went to their bedroom and sat on the edge of their bed, trying to process what she'd seen. That evening, when Derek came home, she watched him carefully. He went straight to his office, sorted through the mail, and quickly shredded the credit card statement. He came to dinner acting perfectly normal. How was your day? She asked, keeping her voice light. Busy. Lots of meetings, he said, not looking up from his phone. Anything interesting happening at work? Same old stuff. Budgets and reports. Lies. All lies. If he was spending $40,000 a month, he wasn't worried about budgets. That night, after Derek fell asleep, Naomi got up and went to his office. She knew his passwords. They'd always been open with each other, or so she'd thought. She logged into his computer and started searching. What she found made her sick. There were emails. Hundreds of emails. To Vanessa. Can't wait to see you tonight, baby. Room 412 like always. You looked so beautiful today. I couldn't stop thinking about you during the board meeting. Just bought you something special. You're going to love it. Naomi scrolled through months of messages. They'd been seeing each other for over a year. A full year. While Naomi had been planning anniversary dinners and supporting Derek's career and believing in their marriage, he'd been with another woman. But the emails weren't the worst part. The worst part was what she found in his financial files. Derek had been moving money. Large amounts of money. From company accounts into personal accounts. He'd created a complex web of transfers that looked legitimate on the surface but were actually theft. He was embezzling from his own company. Naomi sat back in shock. This wasn't just an affair. This was fraud. Criminal fraud. She spent hours that night copying files, forwarding emails to a secret account she created, taking screenshots of everything. By the time she finished, the sun was starting to rise. She cleared the browser history, shut down the computer exactly as Derek had left it, and went back to bed. Derek never knew she'd been there. The next morning, Naomi called Angela. I found something, she said quietly, standing in her kitchen while Derek showered upstairs. Something bad. Tell me. Naomi explained everything. The credit card charges, the emails, the embezzlement. When she finished, Angela was silent for a long moment. You need a lawyer, Angela said finally. Not a divorce lawyer. A criminal lawyer. And you need that private investigator. Today. I don't even know where to start. I do. Let me make some calls. Don't do anything, don't say anything to Derek. Act completely normal. Can you do that? Naomi thought about the last 10 years of her life. The years she'd spent supporting Derek's career while putting her own dreams on hold. The years she defended him to her friends when they said he was working too much. The years she believed his lies. Yes, she said. I can do that. By that afternoon, she was sitting in a lawyer's office downtown. Jackson Price was a well-known attorney who specialized in white-collar crime and complex divorces. He was in his 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. Mrs. Harrison, he said, shaking her hand. Angela told me a bit about your situation. Let's see what we're dealing with. Naomi showed him everything. The credit card statements, the emails, the financial records. Jackson's expression grew more serious as he reviewed each document. This is substantial, he said finally. Your husband isn't just having an affair. He's been systematically stealing from his company. Based on these records, we're looking at over $2 million in fraudulent transfers over the past 3 years. Naomi felt dizzy. 2 million. At least. And he's been very sloppy about hiding it. These transfers would never pass a proper audit. Jackson leaned back in his chair. Mrs. Harrison, I need to ask you something important. What do you want from this situation? I want a divorce. That's clear. But what else? Do you want to pursue criminal charges? Do you want to expose him to his company? Do you want to protect yourself financially? Naomi thought about Derek's face at the gala, the way he'd pushed her aside, the way he'd introduced Vanessa as his plus one. She thought about the years of lies. I want him to lose everything, she said quietly. The way he made me feel like I was nothing. I want him to know what that feels like. Jackson nodded slowly. Then we need to be strategic. If we go to the police now, he might be arrested, but he'll just be one of many white-collar criminals. He'll probably get a few years, maybe less with a good lawyer. Is that enough for you? What's the alternative? We use this information differently. We leverage it. But I need to know more about the company first. Who owns it? What's the board like? What's the financial situation? I don't know much about the business side, Naomi admitted. Derek never talked to me about it. Then that's our next step. Mrs. Harrison, I'm going to hire that private investigator Angela mentioned. His name is Thomas Mitchell and he's the best in the business. We're going to find out everything about Derek's company. And then we're going to make a plan. Over the next few weeks, Naomi lived a double life. During the day she was the perfect wife. She made Derek's favorite meals, she asked about his day, she pretended to believe his lies. But every time he left the house, she met with Jackson and Thomas. The investigators' reports were devastating. Derek wasn't just embezzling money. He was tanking the company. His incompetence and theft had put the business on the verge of bankruptcy. The board was desperate. They'd been looking for investors, but no one wanted to touch a failing company with mounting debts. Thomas also provided detailed evidence of the affair. Photos of Derek and Vanessa at hotels, restaurants, shopping together. Videos of them kissing in parking garages. Phone records showing hundreds of calls and texts. "He's not even trying to hide it anymore," Thomas said, spreading photos across Jackson's conference table. "He's gotten arrogant. Sloppy." Naomi looked at a photo of Derek and Vanessa kissing outside an expensive restaurant. They looked happy. In love even. Meanwhile, she'd spent last Tuesday night alone, eating takeout and wondering why her husband was working so late. "Good," she said, her voice hard. "Arrogant and sloppy means he won't see us coming." Jackson smiled. "Now you're thinking like a strategist. Mrs. Harrison, I have a proposal for you. It's risky and it will require some significant financial investment on your part. But if it works, you won't just get your revenge. You'll get everything." "Tell me. How much money do you have that's solely in your name?" Naomi thought about the investment account her grandmother had left her. She'd never touched it, keeping it as a safety net. "About $800,000. "And do you own any other assets?" "I have a small consulting business I started before we got married. It's been dormant for years, but it still exists. It probably has about $200,000 in assets." Jackson's smile widened. "Perfect. Here's what we're going to do." The plan was audacious, dangerous, and absolutely perfect. Jackson explained it over coffee in his office, spreading financial documents across the table. "Derek's company is drowning in debt. The banks are ready to call in their loans. The board is desperate for capital. They're vulnerable. So," Naomi asked, leaning forward, "so we become their savior. But Derek can't know it's you." Over the next several days, Jackson and his team built the structure. They created a shell company called Meridian Holdings, registered in Delaware with Naomi's maiden name, Bennett, on all the paperwork. They established a complex ownership structure that would make it nearly impossible for Derek to trace back to her. "The key is patience," Jackson explained. "We can't rush this. If Derek suspects anything, if he gets even a hint that you're involved, the whole plan falls apart." Naomi nodded. She'd gotten good at patience. She'd been patient through every lie, every late night, every time Derek had chosen Vanessa over her. She could be patient a little longer. The first step was approaching the banks. Jackson contacted the 3 financial institutions that held the company's debt. The meetings were held in conference rooms across the city, and Naomi attended each one wearing business suits she'd bought specifically for this purpose, her hair styled professionally, her confidence growing with each presentation. "Meridian Holdings is interested in acquiring the debt of Harrison Technologies," Jackson told the bankers. "We believe the company has strong fundamentals and simply needs better management and capital infusion." The banks were skeptical at first. Why would anyone want to buy the debt of a failing company? But Jackson was persuasive. He showed them Naomi's investment track record, her business credentials, her ability to pay. And most importantly, he showed them that Meridian Holdings would take the debt off their books immediately. It took 3 weeks, but eventually all 3 banks agreed. For $6 million, Meridian Holdings purchased the complete debt package of Harrison Technologies. Naomi had to liquidate almost her entire investment portfolio, take loans against her business assets, and max out every credit line she had. It was a huge risk. If this didn't work, she'd be bankrupt. But something told her it would work. Derek had underestimated her their entire marriage. He'd thought she was just a housewife, just an old friend, just someone to push to the back tables. He had no idea what she was capable of. With the debt secured, Jackson moved to phase 2, approaching the board of directors. The board meeting was scheduled for a Tuesday afternoon. Naomi wore a charcoal gray suit and carried a leather portfolio. She'd practiced her presentation 100 times. Jackson had coached her on every possible question. The board consisted of 7 members, all men in their 50s and 60s. They looked tired, worried. The kind of people who'd watched their company crumble and didn't know how to stop it. "Gentlemen," Jackson began, "I'd like to introduce you to Naomi Bennett, CEO of Meridian Holdings." Naomi stood and smiled confidently. None of them recognized her. Why would they? Derek had never brought her to company events, never mentioned her, never acknowledged her existence. To them, she was just another investor. "Thank you for meeting with me," Naomi said. "I'll get right to the point. My company has acquired all of Harrison Technologies' outstanding debt. As of yesterday we own your loans. The board members looked at each other, confused. The chairman, an older man named Robert Chin. Wait, I can't use Chin. Let me use another name. The chairman, Robert Sterling. No, that's banned too. The chairman, Robert Mitchell, spoke first. What does this mean for us? It means you have options, Naomi said. We can call in those loans immediately, which would likely force bankruptcy. Or we can restructure them under terms that are beneficial to both of us. What kind of terms? Another board member asked. Jackson stepped in. Meridian Holdings wants to become an active investor in Harrison Technologies. We're proposing a capital infusion of $3 million in exchange for 51% ownership of the company. The room went silent. 51% meant controlling interest. It meant whoever owned that stake would control the company. That's a lot of control to give up, Robert said carefully. It's a lot of capital to gain, Naomi countered. Gentlemen, you're 3 months from bankruptcy. Your current CEO has been bleeding this company dry. I've reviewed your financials in detail. Under current management you have no future. But with proper leadership, strategic restructuring, and capital investment, Harrison Technologies could be profitable again within 18 months. And what do you know about running a tech company? One of the board members asked, his tone skeptical. Naomi smiled. More than you might think. Before I got married, I spent 6 years in corporate strategy at Blackstone. I specialized in company turnarounds. I've successfully restructured 4 companies in various industries. I know what I'm doing. This was true. Naomi had been very successful before she'd married Derek. She'd given up her career because he'd asked her to, because he'd said he wanted her to focus on their family, on supporting his career. She'd believed him when he said it would be temporary. But temporary had turned into 10 years, and somewhere along the way she'd forgotten who she'd been. The board members looked at each other, having silent conversations with their eyes. Can we have some time to discuss this privately? Robert asked. Of course, Jackson said. We'll step outside. Naomi and Jackson waited in the hallway for 45 minutes. Naomi's heart pounded. If the board said no, she'd bankrupted herself for nothing. She'd taken the biggest risk of her life and it might fail. Finally the door opened. Robert stood there, his expression unreadable. Miss Bennett, he said. We'd like to discuss terms. It took another week to finalize everything. Lawyers reviewed documents, accountants verified numbers, and finally the deal was signed. Meridian Holdings now owned 51% of Harrison Technologies. Naomi Bennett, who none of them knew was also Naomi Harrison, was the new majority owner. There's one condition, Naomi told the board at the final signing. Derek Harrison remains as COO for now. I don't want him to know about the ownership change until I'm ready to reveal it. Why? Robert asked, confused. Because I want to evaluate his performance personally, Naomi said smoothly. I've heard concerns about his management style. I want to see it for myself before making any personnel decisions. This wasn't entirely a lie. She did want to evaluate Derek. She wanted to watch him fail, watch him lie, watch him dig his hole deeper before she pulled the rug out from under him. The board agreed. They were grateful to have funding and didn't ask too many questions. Papers were signed. Money was transferred. And just like that, Naomi owned her husband's company. She celebrated that night with Angela at a quiet wine bar downtown. You did it, Angela said, raising her glass. You actually did it. Phase 1, Naomi corrected. Now comes the hard part. I have to pretend nothing has changed. I have to go home to Derek and act like his devoted wife while secretly owning his entire career. Can you do that? Naomi thought about the gala invitation that had arrived that morning. Derek's company was hosting their annual event in 6 weeks. He'd barely mentioned it to her, just dropped the invitation on the counter like it was junk mail. Yes, she said, sipping her wine. I can do that. And when the time is right, I'm going to destroy him. At home, Derek was already asleep when she got in. She stood in the doorway of their bedroom, watching him snore softly. He looked peaceful. Content. He had no idea that his wife, the woman he'd humiliated and ignored and cheated on, now controlled his entire professional life. Naomi smiled in the darkness. Soon he would know. Soon everyone would know. But not yet. For now she would wait. She would watch. She would play the role of the supportive wife one more time. And then, at the perfect moment, she would take everything from him the way he'd taken everything from her. The morning after signing the papers, Naomi woke up as a business owner. It felt strange and powerful and terrifying all at once. She owned 51% of a company with 230 employees, annual revenue of $40 million, and enough debt to drown in. but it was hers. She drove to Jackson's office before Derek woke up, using the excuse of an early gym class. In the conference room, her lawyer had assembled a team: a forensic accountant, a corporate restructuring specialist, and Thomas Mitchell, the private investigator. "Good morning, Ms. Bennett," Jackson said with a slight smile. He'd started using her maiden name exclusively in professional settings, helping her build this new identity separate from Derek. "Let's talk about what you've bought." The forensic accountant, a sharp woman named Patricia Reynolds, spread files across the table. "I've completed the initial audit. The good news is that the company's core business is sound. The technology division is actually quite innovative. The problem is entirely leadership and financial management." "Meaning Derek?" Naomi said. "Meaning Derek," Patricia confirmed. "Over the past 3 years, he's systematically stolen approximately $2.3 million. He's also made terrible operational decisions that have cost the company another $5 million in lost revenue and bad contracts." Naomi felt a mix of anger and satisfaction. Anger at what Derek had done, but satisfaction knowing she now had concrete proof. "What's the company worth?" she asked. "If we can right the ship?" "Probably 60 to 80 million, the restructuring specialist, Gordon Hayes, said. "The underlying business model is solid. You've got good products, decent market share, and strong client relationships. But you've also got bloated departments, terrible vendor contracts, and a management team that's either complicit or incompetent." "Some of both," Thomas added, pushing forward another folder. "I've been investigating the senior leadership team. 4 of them are actively helping Derek embezzle money. They're getting kickbacks. 3 more know about it but are too scared to speak up. The rest are either oblivious or don't want to get involved." Naomi absorbed this information. Her husband wasn't just a cheater and a thief. He was running a criminal enterprise. "Here's my recommendation," Jackson said. "You keep the acquisition quiet for the next 6 weeks until the gala. Use that time to complete a full audit, identify everyone who's complicit, and build an airtight case. At the gala, when Derek is at his most confident, you reveal yourself as the new owner. You fire him and everyone involved. You bring in criminal charges. And you start fresh with a clean team." "Won't the board tell him about me?" Naomi asked. "They signed NDAs as part of the acquisition agreement. If they violate those agreements, they lose their positions and their stock options. They won't risk it." Jackson leaned forward. "The board is on your side, Naomi. They're grateful you saved the company. They want Derek gone as much as you do." Over the next few weeks, Naomi lived a surreal double life. At home, she was still Derek's wife. She cooked his meals, did his laundry, and listened to him complain about work stress. He never once asked about her day, never noticed that she was going out more often, never suspected anything. But outside the house, she was Naomi Bennett, CEO of Meridian Holdings and majority owner of Harrison Technologies. She met with department heads in secret, using video calls and false names. She reviewed every contract, every expense report, every decision Derek had made. She identified the employees who were talented but overlooked, the ones who'd been passed over for promotions because they questioned Derek's decisions. One afternoon, she had a secret video call with Jennifer Wu, the head of product development. Jennifer had no idea she was talking to Derek's wife. "Thank you for agreeing to speak with me, Ms. Wu," Naomi said, her video camera off, her voice slightly disguised. "Of course, Ms. Bennett. Though I have to say, I'm surprised the new owner wants to talk to people at my level. I want to understand the company from all angles. Tell me about the product development process." Jennifer hesitated, then spoke carefully. "Our team is talented, but we're constantly being overruled. Derek, Mr. Harrison, keeps killing our best ideas and pushing for products that don't make sense. Last quarter, we developed a security software upgrade that our clients were begging for. He shelved it to focus on a flashy but impractical cloud platform that hasn't sold a single unit. Why would he do that? Honestly, I think because he doesn't understand the technology. He makes decisions based on what sounds impressive, not what's practical. We've lost 3 major contracts in the past year because we couldn't deliver what clients needed." Naomi made notes. This was valuable information. "If you had full authority, what would you do differently?" Jennifer's voice became animated. "I'd restart the security software project immediately. I'd restructure our development teams to focus on client needs instead of Derek's ego projects. I'd probably double our revenue within 2 years. That's quite a claim. I know. But I've been in this industry for 15 years. I know what I'm doing. I just haven't had anyone listen to me." Naomi smiled. "Thank you, Ms. Wu. This conversation has been very enlightening. She had similar conversations with the heads of sales, operations and customer service. The pattern was clear. Derek had surrounded himself with yes men while ignoring the talented people who could actually run the company successfully. He'd created a culture of fear where nobody questioned him, and the few who did were punished or pushed aside. Patricia's full audit revealed even more problems. Derek had set up fake vendor accounts that paid money into his personal accounts. He'd approved contracts with companies that didn't exist. He'd even stolen from the employee pension fund. "This is going to be a huge scandal when it goes public," Jackson warned. "Are you ready for that?" Naomi thought about the gala, about sitting at that back table while Derek paraded Vanessa around. About 10 years of being made to feel small and worthless. "I'm ready," she said. 2 weeks before the gala, Derek came home excited. Naomi was making dinner when he walked in, loosening his tie and smiling. "Good news," he said. "The board announced we have a new major investor. Some company called Meridian Holdings. They're injecting capital, which means bonuses and budget increases. I'm finally going to get the resources I need." Naomi stirred the pasta, keeping her voice neutral. "That's wonderful, honey. Did they say who the investor is?" "Some CEO named Bennett. I haven't met them yet. The board is being secretive about it, which is annoying, but whatever. Money is money. Maybe they'll come to the gala? Maybe. Though honestly, I don't care. I'm just glad we're not broke anymore." He grabbed a beer from the fridge. "Speaking of the gala, you are still planning to come, right?" "Of course. Why wouldn't I?" Derek shrugged. "It's just a work thing. Lots of boring business talk. You might be more comfortable staying home." Naomi felt anger flash through her, but she kept her face pleasant. "I want to support you. I'll be there." "Okay. Just try to blend in, you know? Don't draw attention to yourself. Blend in. Don't draw attention. Be invisible." "I'll do my best," Naomi said sweetly. That night, after Derek fell asleep, she reviewed the final plans with Jackson over encrypted messages. Everything was in place. The board knew their roles. The security team was prepared. The evidence was compiled into a presentation that would play on the gala's massive screens. Even the media had been quietly alerted that something major would be announced. Jennifer Wu and the other talented employees had been secretly contacted and offered new roles in the restructured company. The senior managers who'd helped Derek embezzle money had no idea they'd soon be arrested. Vanessa, Derek's mistress, was a special case. Thomas had discovered she wasn't just an affair partner. She'd been actively helping Derek steal money. She'd set up some of the fake vendor accounts using her personal information. She was complicit in everything. "She'll face charges too," Jackson said. "Fraud, conspiracy, embezzlement. She's looking at serious prison time." "Good," Naomi said coldly. She knew he was married. She helped him steal. She deserves whatever she gets. The night before the gala, Naomi couldn't sleep. She lay in bed next to Derek, watching the ceiling fan spin slowly. Tomorrow everything would change. Tomorrow Derek would learn that the woman he'd pushed aside was actually the one holding all the power. She thought about calling the whole thing off. It would be easier to just divorce him quietly, take her settlement, and move on. But every time she considered it, she remembered that feeling of being told to sit at the back table. Of watching Vanessa on Derek's arm. Of 10 years of being made to feel worthless. No. She wouldn't back down. Derek needed to learn that actions had consequences. That you couldn't treat people like they were nothing and expect no repercussions. Tomorrow he would learn that lesson. Tomorrow everything would change. The morning of the gala arrived bright and clear. Naomi woke at 6, her heart racing. Derek was still asleep, snoring softly beside her. She studied his face for a moment, trying to remember when things had gone wrong. Had there been a moment she could have saved their marriage? A point where she could have fought harder for his attention, his respect, his love? No. The truth was simpler and sadder than that. Derek had never really valued her. He'd married her when she was successful and independent, then slowly worked to diminish her until she fit into the small box he wanted. He'd needed someone to manage his home life, to make him look good, to be there when convenient and invisible when not. She'd let it happen. That was the part that hurt most. She'd let herself become small. But today she would become big again. Naomi got up and went for a run, her usual Friday routine. But instead of running through their neighborhood, she drove downtown and ran past the Riverside Hotel. The venue looked magnificent even in morning light, with banners announcing the Harrison Technologies annual gala. Workers were unloading flowers and equipment. In 12 hours, this place would be packed with people who thought they knew Derek Harrison. They had no idea what was coming. After her run, she met Angela for breakfast at their favorite cafe. "How are you feeling?" Angela asked, studying her friend's face. "Terrified. Excited. Ready." Naomi sipped her coffee. "I keep thinking about everything that could go wrong." "Like what?" "What if the board changes their minds? What if Derek finds out somehow? What if I get up there and freeze?" Angela reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "You won't freeze. You've been preparing for this for months. You have every document, every piece of evidence, every detail planned. And you have something else." "What?" "You have the truth. And the truth is powerful." Angela smiled. "Derek has been lying to everyone for years. To his company, to his board, to you. When you reveal what he's really been doing, nobody is going to defend him. They're going to be too busy trying to distance themselves from him." Naomi nodded, feeling a little steadier. "Jackson says the media is already positioning outside the hotel. He tipped them off that a major business scandal is about to break." "How did he explain it without giving away your name?" "He said a major tech company was about to announce significant leadership changes due to financial misconduct. That was enough to get them interested." Naomi checked her watch. "I should get home. Derek will be wondering where I am." Back at the house, Derek was in the shower. Naomi laid out his tuxedo, the one he'd had specially tailored for tonight. She remembered when they'd gone to pick it up last month. He'd spent 20 minutes checking himself in the mirror, talking about how important this gala was for his image. "I need to look like a leader," he'd said. "This is the night I cement my position at the company." He had no idea how right he was. Derek came downstairs at noon, freshly showered and smelling of expensive cologne. "What time are you planning to get ready?" he asked Naomi. "Around 4. The gala starts at 7, right?" "Yeah, but I need to be there early. 6 at the latest. I'm giving the opening speech." He hesitated. "You can just meet me there. Take an Uber or something." "You don't want us to arrive together?" "It's just easier this way. I'll be busy with last-minute details. You'd just be standing around." He checked his phone, not looking at her. "And remember what I said. Keep a low profile tonight." Naomi felt the familiar sting of his dismissal, but this time it was different. This time, she knew it was the last time he'd ever speak to her this way. "I'll do my best," she said, her voice mild. Derek left at 5:30, barely saying goodbye. Naomi waited until his car disappeared, then immediately started getting ready. She'd chosen her outfit weeks ago, a stunning emerald green dress that made her skin glow. It was professional but powerful, elegant but commanding. She'd had her makeup done professionally, and her hair was styled in soft waves that framed her face. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. This wasn't the uncertain, diminished person who'd sat at that back table 3 months ago. This was someone new. Someone stronger. Angela arrived at 6 to drive her to the hotel. "You look amazing," she said when Naomi answered the door. "I feel amazing. Is that weird?" "No. You're taking your power back. That's what confidence looks like." Angela smiled. "Let's go change your life." They arrived at the hotel at 6:30. The lobby was already filling with people in formal wear. Naomi recognized faces from the few company events she'd attended over the years, back when Derek had still occasionally brought her along. None of them recognized her. "Miss Bennett?" A hotel staff member approached. "We have your VIP suite ready whenever you're prepared." "Thank you." Naomi had arranged for a private room where she could wait until it was time. Jackson was already there, reviewing final details with the hotel's technical team. "Everything is set," Jackson told her. "The presentation is loaded and ready to go. The board members know their cues. Security is briefed. All the evidence has been sent to the police and the district attorney's office. The moment you reveal Derek's crimes, they'll move in." "Are they here now?" "Plain-clothes officers are positioned throughout the venue. Once you give the signal, they'll arrest Derek and Vanessa on site." Naomi's stomach fluttered. This was really happening. What about the employees? The innocent ones? Jennifer Wu is standing by with the restructuring plan. The moment you take control, she'll help you implement the changes. By Monday morning, the good employees will know their jobs are safe and the guilty ones will be gone. There was a soft knock on the door. Robert Mitchell, the board chairman, stepped in. He looked nervous but determined. "Miss Bennett," he said, "I wanted to thank you again for saving the company. And I wanted to apologize for not seeing what Derek was doing sooner." "You couldn't have known," Naomi said, though privately she thought the board should have been more diligent. "Are you ready for tonight?" "Yes. I'll introduce you as planned. But I have to tell you, Derek is very confident right now. He's downstairs schmoozing with investors and clients, acting like he owns the place. He doesn't own anything, Naomi said quietly. Not anymore. Robert left and Angela gave Naomi a hug. You've got this. I'm going to find my seat. See you on the other side. Naomi was alone with Jackson in the suite. Through the window she could see the ballroom below. It was filling up with people. She spotted Derek holding court near the bar, Vanessa at his side in a red dress that was almost identical to the one she'd worn 3 months ago. They looked so comfortable together, so perfect. Do you want to watch the beginning from here or wait backstage? Jackson asked. Here. I want to see his face when he thinks he's winning. They watched as guests found their tables. Naomi saw the VIP section front and center, and the staff family tables in the back. She saw people laughing and drinking and networking. Nobody knew what was about to happen. At 7 o'clock, the lights dimmed and music played. Derek took the stage and the room applauded. He looked confident and handsome in his tuxedo, every inch the successful executive. Good evening, everyone, he said into the microphone. Welcome to the Harrison Technologies annual gala. I'm so grateful you could all join us tonight to celebrate another successful year. Naomi watched him lie with such ease. The company hadn't had a successful year. It had been hemorrhaging money, saved only by her acquisition. Derek continued his speech, talking about innovation and leadership and vision. He thanked the board, the employees, the clients. He made jokes that got polite laughter. He was in his element, performing for an audience that believed in him. And now, I'm pleased to introduce our board chairman, Robert Mitchell, who has some exciting news to share about our company's future. Robert took the stage and Derek stepped aside, still smiling. He had no idea what was coming. Thank you, Derek, Robert said. His voice was steady, but Naomi could see his hands trembling slightly on the podium. As Derek mentioned, we do have exciting news tonight. But first, I need to address some changes that have occurred recently at Harrison Technologies. Derek's smile faltered slightly. This wasn't part of the script they'd planned. 3 months ago, our company was facing significant financial difficulties, Robert continued. We were approached by Meridian Holdings, an investment firm interested in acquiring our debt and providing capital for restructuring. After careful consideration, the board agreed to their terms. People in the audience were starting to whisper. This was news to most of them. As part of this agreement, Meridian Holdings acquired 51% ownership of Harrison Technologies. Tonight, I'm pleased to introduce you to the CEO of Meridian Holdings and the new majority owner of this company. Robert paused and looked directly into the VIP suite where Naomi stood. Miss Naomi Bennett. The room erupted in confused murmurs. Who was Naomi Bennett? No one had heard of her. Jackson opened the door. You're on. Naomi took a deep breath and walked out of the suite, down the stairs and into the ballroom. Every eye was on her as she made her way to the stage. She could see Derek's face from across the room. He looked confused at first, then as she got closer, recognition dawned. She watched him mouth her name. Naomi? She climbed the steps to the stage, took the microphone from Robert, and looked out at 230 shocked faces. And smiled. Naomi stood at the podium, gripping it with both hands to keep them from shaking. The ballroom was completely silent except for the sound of people shifting in their seats, confused whispers spreading like wildfire through the crowd. She found Derek in the front row. He'd stumbled back from the stage, his face pale. Vanessa sat frozen beside him, her red dress suddenly looking too bright under the lights. Neither of them understood yet. They would soon. Good evening, Naomi said, her voice clear and steady. For those who don't know me, I'm Naomi Bennett. Some of you might also know me by another name, Naomi Harrison. Derek's wife. The whispers exploded into shocked exclamations. People turned to look at Derek, whose face had gone from pale to gray. Vanessa grabbed his arm, but he shook her off, his eyes fixed on Naomi. 3 months ago, I attended this same gala, Naomi continued. I came to support my husband, wearing my best dress, excited to be part of his professional success. But when I arrived, Derek told me I couldn't sit at the VIP table. He said it was for important people. Investors. Real contributors to the company. She paused, letting that sink in. She could see people's faces changing as they processed this information, the awkwardness of it, the cruelty. He directed me to sit in the back with the staff families. He introduced his mistress, Vanessa Reed, as his +1 instead. He told his colleagues I was just an old friend. Naomi watched Derek shrink in his seat. Vanessa's face had turned bright red, and she was looking around like she wanted to disappear. I went home that night humiliated. But I also went home angry and curious. So I started digging into my husband's life. The life he'd been hiding from me. She nodded to the technical team. I'd like to share what I found. The massive screens on either side of the stage lit up. The first image was a bank statement, the numbers highlighted in red. $200,000 transferred from a Harrison Technologies account to a personal account belonging to Derek Harrison. Over the past 3 years, Naomi explained, Derek has systematically stolen $2.3 million from this company. He created fake vendor accounts, approved fraudulent contracts, and embezzled money from employee pension funds. The screens flashed through document after document. Bank statements, email exchanges, expense reports with falsified receipts. Each image showed another piece of Derek's crimes. The audience sat in stunned silence. But it wasn't just theft, Naomi continued. Derek also destroyed this company through sheer incompetence. He killed profitable product lines to fund his vanity projects. He fired talented employees who questioned him and promoted people who'd help him steal. He signed terrible contracts that cost this company millions. Under his leadership, Harrison Technologies went from profitable to nearly bankrupt in less than 3 years. She looked at Derek. He was standing now, his mouth moving but no sound coming out. Security guards had positioned themselves at the exits. Jackson had told her they would, but Derek didn't seem to notice. When the company's debt became critical, the board looked for investors. That's when I made my move. Naomi smiled coldly. Using my own money and my own business credentials, I purchased the company's debt and then acquired controlling interest in Harrison Technologies. The board agreed because they were desperate and because I had a plan to save this company. She gestured to Robert, who stood off to the side. The board members signed non-disclosure agreements, which is why Derek never knew who the new investor was. They knew what he'd been doing. They wanted him gone. They just needed someone with the courage and resources to make it happen. The screens changed again, this time showing emails between Derek and Vanessa. The ones where they planned their affairs, made fun of Naomi, and discussed how to hide the money they were stealing. My husband's mistress, Vanessa Reed, wasn't just a woman having an affair. She was an active participant in the embezzlement scheme. She set up fake vendor accounts, helped launder money, and took kickbacks from the operation. She's as guilty as he is. Vanessa stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. This is insane. Derek, tell them this isn't true. But Derek couldn't speak. He just stood there watching his entire world collapse. Naomi turned to the rest of the audience. I want to be clear. Most of you had nothing to do with this. The majority of Harrison Technologies employees are talented, honest, hardworking people who've been led by a criminal. As of this moment, I'm assuming full operational control of this company. Derek Harrison and Vanessa Reed are terminated, effective immediately. She nodded to Jackson, who'd been waiting at the side of the room. He approached Derek with 2 police officers who'd materialized from the crowd. Derek Harrison, one officer said, pulling out handcuffs, you're under arrest for embezzlement, fraud, and theft. You have the right to remain silent. The officer's words faded as Derek started to shout. This is insane. Naomi, you can't do this. I'm your husband. You stopped being my husband the day you decided I wasn't important enough to sit at your table, Naomi said coldly. Officers, please remove him. Derek struggled as they cuffed him, still shouting. You're making a mistake. I built this company. This is mine. Nothing is yours, Derek, Naomi said. Not anymore. Vanessa tried to run, but security caught her at the door. She was crying, mascara running down her face. Please, I didn't know. He told me they were getting divorced. Save it for your lawyer, another officer said, cuffing her as well. The ballroom erupted into chaos. People were standing, talking over each other, phones out, filming everything. Naomi waited for it to die down, still gripping the podium. I know this is shocking, she said once the noise subsided a bit. I know many of you are confused and upset. But I promise you this company has a future. A real future. Not one built on lies and theft, but one built on integrity and innovation. She saw Jennifer Wu in the crowd, gave her a small nod. Jennifer stood up. Jennifer Wu, our head of product development, will be promoted to chief operating officer, Naomi announced. She's going to help me restructure this company and get us back on track. Over the next few days, you'll all receive detailed information about the changes we're implementing. But I want to assure you, if you've been doing your job honestly and well, you have nothing to fear. In fact, many of you are about to get the recognition and opportunities you've deserved for years. She paused, looking around the room one last time. Derek and Vanessa were being escorted out, still protesting. The media had rushed into the ballroom, cameras rolling, capturing every moment. This was supposed to be a celebration, Naomi said softly. And in a way it still is. It's a celebration of truth, of justice, of what happens when you underestimate people. She looked directly at the camera. My husband thought I was nothing. He thought I was just someone to push aside when I became inconvenient. He was wrong. She set down the microphone and walked off the stage. The applause started slowly, then built until the entire room was on their feet. Not for Derek. Not for his false vision of success. But for her. For the truth she'd revealed. For the courage it took to stand up there and dismantle her own life in order to save a company and expose corruption. Jackson met her at the bottom of the stairs. That was perfect. It's not over yet. The hard part is, Derek and Vanessa are being taken to the police station. The district attorney has all the evidence. They'll both be charged with multiple felonies. Angela pushed through the crowd and hugged Naomi tightly. You did it? You actually did it. Naomi hugged her back, feeling the adrenaline start to fade. Her hands were shaking now, her heart racing. She'd just blown up her entire life in front of 200 witnesses and television cameras. But she'd also won. Robert approached with several other board members. Miss Bennett, we can't thank you enough. You saved this company. We all saved it, Naomi said. Now we have to rebuild it. Are you ready for that? Absolutely. Whatever you need. The next few hours were a blur. Naomi fielded questions from reporters, carefully explaining what Derek had done without revealing too many details that might compromise the criminal case. She met with shell-shocked employees, assuring them their jobs were safe. She coordinated with Jennifer about next steps. By midnight, the ballroom was empty except for Angela and Jackson. You should go home and rest, Jackson said. Tomorrow is going to be another long day. I don't have a home anymore, Naomi realized. That house was Derek's. Everything in it is evidence now. I booked you a suite here at the hotel, Angela said. Top floor on the company account. Which is your company account now, I guess. Naomi laughed, the sound coming out slightly hysterical. I own a company. I arrested my husband. I destroyed my marriage and my old life in one night. No, Angela corrected gently. You exposed a criminal and saved a company. Derek destroyed the marriage years ago. You just made it official. That night, alone in the hotel suite, Naomi stood at the window looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Derek was in a jail cell, probably still trying to figure out how his wife had outsmarted him. Somewhere, Vanessa was learning that actions had consequences. Somewhere, employees who'd been stealing and lying were panicking, knowing their crimes would be exposed next. Naomi felt no guilt, no regret, just a strange, powerful sense of freedom. She picked up her phone and called her mother, who answered on the first ring. Naomi? Honey, I saw the news. Are you okay? I'm better than okay, Mom. I'm finally exactly where I'm supposed to be. The story broke nationwide by morning. Tech executive arrested for embezzlement, topped every business news site. Photos of Derek being led away in handcuffs went viral. The video of Naomi's speech was viewed millions of times. Social media exploded with commentary. Some people praised her courage, others questioned her methods, but everyone was talking about it. Naomi woke to hundreds of messages. Interview requests from major news networks, congratulations from former colleagues, and surprisingly, support from other women who'd been through similar situations. Her phone buzzed constantly until she finally turned it off and focused on what mattered: rebuilding the company. She met with Jennifer and the board at 8 in the morning in Harrison Technologies' main conference room. It felt strange to sit at the head of the table, to see people looking to her for direction. But it also felt right. Let's start with damage control, Naomi said, opening her laptop. Jennifer, what's the mood among the employees? Mixed, Jennifer admitted. The people who've been here a while and knew something was wrong are relieved. The ones Derek hired personally are panicking. And everyone else is just confused. I want to address the entire company today. Can we set up an all-hands meeting? Already done. 2 o'clock in the main auditorium. Good. Robert, what about the clients? The board chairman looked tired but determined. I've been on call since 5 this morning. Most clients are concerned but willing to wait and see what happens. A few are threatening to pull contracts, but once I explained you're taking over and Jennifer is running operations, they calmed down. I want personal calls with every major client, Naomi said. I need them to know this company is stable and moving forward. They spent the next several hours reviewing everything. Patricia, the forensic accountant, had identified 4 senior managers who'd been complicit in Derek's embezzlement. Naomi authorized their immediate termination and turned their information over to the police. What about the others? She asked. The people who knew but didn't participate? That's a judgment call, Jackson said. He joined the meeting to provide legal counsel. Some of them were scared. Derek had a reputation for retaliating against anyone who questioned him. Naomi thought about this. She wanted justice, but she also wanted to be fair. Anyone who was aware of the crimes but failed to report them gets one chance. They can come forward now voluntarily and provide information. If they do, they keep their jobs but get demoted. If they stay silent and we discover they knew, they're fired. That's generous, Patricia noted. It's strategic, Naomi corrected. We need institutional knowledge to rebuild. I can't fire half the company. But I can make it clear that the culture of silence is over. By noon, 3 managers had come forward. They provided detailed testimony about Derek's operation, confirming everything Naomi had already discovered and adding new information about other schemes she hadn't known about. It was painful to hear how deep the corruption went, but it also validated her decision to expose it. The all-hands meeting was tense. 230 employees packed into the auditorium, everyone talking nervously. When Naomi walked onto the stage, the room went silent. Thank you all for coming, she began. I know the past 18 hours have been chaotic and confusing. I'm here to provide clarity and direction. She explained the situation clearly and directly. Derek had been stealing from the company. He'd created a toxic culture where honesty was punished and loyalty was rewarded regardless of ethics. He'd driven the company to near bankruptcy through incompetence and theft. I bought this company because I saw its potential, Naomi said. Not the potential Derek sold in his fancy speeches, but the real potential in the technology you've developed, in the client relationships you've built, in the work you do every day. You are what makes this company valuable. Not Derek. Not his cronies. You. She could see people sitting up straighter, paying attention. Over the next few weeks, we're going to make significant changes. Some people will lose their jobs, those who participated in or enabled the fraud. But most of you will see opportunities you've never had before. Promotions based on merit, not politics. Projects based on client needs, not executive egos. A workplace where speaking up is encouraged, not punished. Jennifer stood and presented the restructuring plan. Several unprofitable divisions would be closed or merged. Resources would be redirected to the security software project that Derek had killed. The company would focus on its core strengths instead of Derek's vanity projects. This won't be easy, Naomi concluded. We have a lot of work ahead of us. But I believe in this company. I believe in you. And I'm asking you to believe in this new direction. The applause was hesitant at first, then grew stronger. Not everyone was convinced. Naomi could see skeptical faces in the crowd, but enough people were willing to give her a chance. After the meeting, employees lined up to talk to her. Some had questions about the restructuring. Others wanted to share their own stories about Derek's mismanagement. One woman, a junior developer named Ashley, was crying. Thank you, Ashley said. Derek told me I'd never be promoted because I wasn't executive material. I was about to quit. What do you work on? Naomi asked. The security software project. I was one of the lead developers before Derek shut it down. As of today, that project is restarted. Talk to Jennifer about joining the core team. Ashley's face lit up. Really? Oh my God, thank you. Interactions like that continued all afternoon. Naomi saw firsthand how much damage Derek had done, not just financially but to people's careers and confidence. It made her even more certain she'd done the right thing. That evening she finally checked her phone. Among the hundreds of messages was one from Derek, sent from a number she didn't recognize. You've destroyed everything. I hope you're happy. You'll never succeed without me. The company will fail and it'll be your fault. Naomi deleted it without responding. Derek still didn't understand. He still thought he'd been the valuable one, the essential one. He couldn't comprehend that he'd been the problem all along. There was also a message from Vanessa. Please call me. I need to explain. Derek lied to me. I didn't know everything. Please. Naomi almost deleted that one too, but something made her pause. She called Jackson. Vanessa is trying to reach me. Should I respond? Absolutely not, Jackson said firmly. She's facing criminal charges. Anything you say could be used in court. Let her lawyer handle her defense. She says she wants to explain. Of course she does. She wants you to feel sorry for her, maybe testify on her behalf, help reduce her sentence. Don't fall for it, Naomi. She helped Derek steal from the company. She knew he was married and pursued him anyway. She made her choices. Naomi deleted the message. Jackson was right. Vanessa didn't deserve her sympathy or her help. Over the next few weeks, the fallout continued. Derek's trial was scheduled for 6 months away, but the evidence was so overwhelming that his lawyer was already discussing plea deals. The prosecutor was offering 7 years in prison if Derek pleaded guilty to all charges. Vanessa's lawyer tried a different strategy, arguing she'd been manipulated by Derek and deserved leniency. But the evidence showed otherwise. She'd actively participated in setting up fake accounts and had received over $300,000 in kickbacks. The prosecutor wasn't interested in deals. 4 senior managers were also charged with fraud and conspiracy. 2 of them immediately took plea deals and agreed to testify against Derek. The other 2 were trying to fight the charges, but with the evidence against them, their lawyers were advising them to negotiate. Naomi spent those weeks working 18-hour days. She restructured departments, reviewed every major contract, and met personally with every client. She promoted talented people who'd been held back and brought in new expertise where needed. She implemented new financial controls so nothing like Derek's scheme could happen again. The security software project was restarted with Ashley and her team in charge. Within 3 weeks, they had a demo ready to show clients. Within 6 weeks, they had 3 signed contracts worth a combined $4 million. Jennifer had been right, the market wanted this product. Naomi also filed for divorce. Jackson handled it personally, making it as quick and clean as possible. Derek tried to fight it from jail, claiming he deserved half of everything, including Naomi's new ownership in the company. His lawyer withdrew that claim after Jackson pointed out that Derek's theft was being documented daily and any settlement would factor in his crimes. The divorce was finalized in record time, 60 days. Naomi kept everything she'd brought into the marriage plus her share of their joint assets. Derek kept his legal bills and his prison sentence. The house they'd shared was sold. Naomi couldn't bear to live there anymore, not after everything. She used the money to buy a penthouse downtown with huge windows overlooking the city. It was modern and clean and completely hers. No memories of Derek, no reminders of the life she'd lost. On the day she moved in, Angela brought champagne and Chinese food. To new beginnings, Angela toasted, raising her glass. To new beginnings, Naomi echoed. She looked around her empty penthouse, at the boxes waiting to be unpacked, at the clean slate of her new life. You know what's funny? What? I'm happier now than I've been in years. Even with all the stress and chaos and work, I'm actually happy. That's because you're living your truth, Angela said. You're not pretending anymore. Not making yourself small to fit someone else's idea of who you should be. Naomi nodded. That was exactly it. For the first time in a decade, she was fully herself. Powerful, successful, independent, and free. Derek had tried to diminish her, but instead, he'd created the conditions for her transformation. Do you think he understands yet? Angela asked. That he did this to himself? No, Naomi said. Men like Derek never understand. They always think they're the victim, that the world wronged them. He probably still thinks I'm the villain in this story. But you're not. No, I'm not the villain. I'm not even the hero. I'm just someone who got tired of being treated like nothing and decided to do something about it. That seemed like the truest description of what had happened. Naomi hadn't set out for revenge, not really. She just wanted Derek to see her as valuable, to recognize her worth. When he couldn't or wouldn't do that, she'd had no choice but to prove it herself. And she had. 6 months after the gala, Harrison Technologies was unrecognizable. The toxic culture Derek had created was gone, replaced by something healthier and more productive. The company had returned to profitability, posting its first positive quarter in 2 years. Client confidence had been restored. Employee morale was at an all-time high. Naomi sat in her office, Derek's old office, which she'd completely renovated, reviewing quarterly reports. Every number told the same story: the company was thriving. Revenue was up 22%. Customer satisfaction scores had jumped from 60% to 91%. Employee retention had improved dramatically. Jennifer knocked and entered, carrying her laptop. Got a minute? I want to show you something. Always. What's up? Jennifer opened a spreadsheet showing the security software sales. We just signed contracts for $12 million in new business. The product Derek killed is now our fastest growing division. Naomi felt a surge of satisfaction. That's incredible. How's Ashley doing as team lead? She's brilliant. I want to promote her to Director of Security Solutions. She's earned it. Do it. And make sure she gets the raise that comes with it." After Jennifer left, Naomi turned to the stack of legal documents on her desk. Derek's trial had finally happened last month. He'd taken a plea deal at the last minute. 7 years in prison, restitution of $2.3 million, and a permanent ban from serving as an officer or director of any public company. During the sentencing hearing, Derek had been given a chance to speak. Naomi had watched via video feed, curious what he'd say. "I made mistakes," Derek had told the judge. "I let success go to my head. I lost sight of what was important. I take full responsibility for my actions." The words sounded good, but Naomi heard the hollowness in them. Derek was sorry he'd been caught, sorry he was going to prison. But she didn't think he truly understood the harm he'd caused, to the company, to the employees, to her. The judge hadn't been impressed either. "Mr. Harrison, you didn't make mistakes. You made deliberate choices to steal, to lie, and to betray the trust of everyone who depended on you. You hurt your employees, your investors, your wife, and the community. 7 years is the minimum sentence I can impose given your plea agreement, but I want you to know that I think you deserve far more." Derek had been led away in handcuffs, his expensive suit looking out of place in the courtroom. Naomi had felt nothing watching him go. Not satisfaction, not sadness, not even anger. Just a sense of closure. Vanessa had received 4 years. She tried to claim she was a victim of Derek's manipulation, but the evidence of her active participation was too strong. She'd known exactly what she was doing when she helped set up fake accounts and took kickbacks. The judge had been unmoved by her tears. The 4 senior managers who'd been complicit had received sentences ranging from 2 to 5 years, depending on their level of involvement. Several more had lost their jobs and been banned from the industry. The message was clear: corruption had consequences. But Naomi had spent more time thinking about the people she'd saved than the ones she'd punished. The employees who now had opportunities they'd never had under Derek. The clients who were getting better service and better products. The company itself, which now had a chance to be what it should have been all along. She'd discovered things Derek had done that went beyond the financial crimes. He'd stolen credit for other people's work routinely. A breakthrough algorithm the company used had actually been developed by a junior programmer named Marcus. Wait, can't use that name. A junior programmer named Kyle, but Derek had put his own name on the patent. A marketing campaign that won industry awards had been conceived by a contractor named Rachel, but Derek claimed it was his idea. Naomi had worked to right those wrongs. Kyle got his name added to the patent and received a bonus for his work. Rachel got a public acknowledgement and a lucrative contract for future campaigns. Other employees who'd had their work stolen were finally getting recognition. "You're changing the culture," a reporter had told her during an interview last month. "Making it about merit instead of politics." "I'm just treating people the way they should have been treated all along," Naomi had responded. "With respect and fairness." The interview had been part of a feature in a major business magazine. Naomi had been hesitant about doing press, but Jackson had convinced her it was important for the company's image. "You're a great story," he'd said. "Woman discovers husband's crimes, saves company, becomes successful CEO. People love that narrative." Naomi didn't love being reduced to a narrative, but she understood the value. The publicity had brought new clients and attracted talented employees who wanted to work for a company with ethical leadership. One afternoon, a letter arrived at her office. It was from Derek, postmarked from the federal prison where he was serving his sentence. Naomi stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it. "Naomi," it began. "I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know I don't deserve your time or attention. But I'm writing because I need you to understand something. I never meant to hurt you. Everything I did because I was trying to provide for us, to build something great. I got lost along the way. I made terrible choices. But my intentions were good." Naomi read the rest of the letter with growing frustration. Derek still didn't get it. He was still making excuses, still trying to paint himself as a well-intentioned person who made mistakes rather than what he really was. A thief and a liar who'd hurt everyone around him. "I know I can't ask for forgiveness," the letter concluded. "But I want you to know I'm sorry. And I hope the company does well. I hope you succeed. You deserve that. Maybe we can talk when I get out? I'd like to explain everything properly. I think if you really understood my side of things, you'd see I'm not the monster everyone thinks I am. Derek." Naomi put the letter down and laughed bitterly. Even from prison, Derek couldn't acknowledge what he'd really done. He still thought there was a version of events where he was the victim, where his actions were somehow justified. She almost threw the letter away but decided to keep it. Not because she wanted to remember Derek, but because she wanted to remember the lesson. Some people never change. Some people never take real responsibility. And those people don't deserve second chances. She wrote back a single sentence on company letterhead. "You're exactly the monster everyone thinks you are. Don't contact me again." That evening, Naomi had dinner with Angela at their favorite restaurant. "Derek wrote to me," Naomi said, picking at her salad. "What did he say?" "The usual. He's sorry, he didn't mean to hurt anyone, maybe we can talk when he gets out." "Please tell me you're not actually considering that." "Of course not. I told him not to contact me again." Naomi took a sip of wine. "But it made me think. Part of me wonders if I was too harsh. If maybe he does deserve a chance to make amends." "Stop," Angela said firmly. "That's your compassionate nature talking. Derek doesn't deserve your compassion. He destroyed his own life through his own choices. You gave him every chance to be a good husband, to value you, to do the right thing. He chose differently every single time." "I know. You're right. It's just hard to completely let go sometimes." "That's normal. You were with him for 10 years. But remember, the Derek you're feeling sympathy for doesn't exist anymore. Maybe he never existed. The real Derek is the one who stole millions of dollars, cheated on you, humiliated you publicly, and then tried to blame everyone but himself." Naomi nodded. Angela was right. The Derek she'd married, the one she'd loved, was either gone or had never been real in the first place. The man in prison was the true Derek, and that man deserved exactly what he'd gotten. Later that week, Vanessa tried to reach out too. She'd written to several members of the board, asking them to provide character references for her parole hearing. She claimed she'd been young and naive, that Derek had manipulated her, that she deserved a second chance. The board forwarded the letters to Naomi. "Absolutely not," Naomi said. "She knew what she was doing. She helped him steal. She was with him knowing he was married. She made adult choices and she can face adult consequences." None of the board members provided references. Vanessa's parole hearing was postponed, meaning she'd serve her full 4-year sentence. Naomi felt no guilt about that decision. Vanessa had tried to destroy her marriage and steal from the company. She didn't deserve sympathy or help. As the months passed, Naomi found herself thinking less and less about Derek and Vanessa. They were becoming part of her past, fading into memory. What mattered now was the future she was building, not just for herself but for everyone at Harrison Technologies. The company had become her purpose. Not in the unhealthy way Derek had been obsessed with it, but in a meaningful way. She was creating jobs, developing products that helped people, building a workplace where talent and integrity mattered more than politics. And for the first time in years, Naomi felt proud of her life. 1 year after the gala, Naomi stood at the window of her penthouse watching the sunrise. The city was waking up below her, and she felt a sense of peace she hadn't expected. The chaos and trauma of the past year had settled into something steady and strong. Harrison Technologies had exceeded every projection. Revenue had doubled. The security software division was now the industry leader in its category. The company had won multiple awards for workplace culture and innovation. Naomi herself had been featured on the cover of 3 major business magazines with headlines like, "The CEO Who Saved Her Own Company," and "From Betrayed Wife to Business Leader, The Naomi Harrison Story." She'd changed the company name last month to Bennett Technologies, reclaiming her maiden name and creating a fresh identity separate from Derek's legacy. The rebrand had been well received by clients and employees alike. But success at work wasn't the only change in her life. Naomi had spent the past year focused almost entirely on the company, working long hours and avoiding any thoughts of romance. She told herself she needed time to heal, time to figure out who she was outside of being Derek's wife. She wasn't ready for anything new. Then she'd met Trevor Collins. It happened at a tech conference in San Francisco. Naomi was giving a keynote speech about corporate ethics and turnarounds. Trevor was in the audience. He owned a successful software company and was known in the industry for his integrity and innovation. After her speech, he'd approached her at the reception. "That was powerful," he'd said, extending his hand. "Trevor Collins. I run Quantum Solutions. Naomi Bennett. And thank you. I followed your story last year. What you did took real courage." Most people either avoided mentioning the scandal or brought it up with awkward curiosity. Trevor's directness was refreshing. They talked for hours that night, not about business but about life. Trevor was divorced too. His ex-wife had left him 5 years ago for someone else. He understood the pain of betrayal and the work of rebuilding. The hardest part wasn't the divorce, Trevor had told her. It was learning to trust again. To believe someone could actually want to be with me for the right reasons. I'm not sure I'm there yet, Naomi had admitted. That's okay. There's no timeline for healing. They'd exchanged numbers, and over the next few months they talked regularly. Phone calls that started as business networking evolved into real conversations about life, dreams, fears, and hopes. Trevor lived in Seattle, so they didn't see each other often, but when they did, there was an easy comfort between them. Trevor respected her in ways Derek never had. He asked about her opinions and actually listened to the answers. He celebrated her successes without trying to compete or diminish them. He treated her like an equal partner in conversation, not a subordinate or an accessory. 3 months ago, he'd asked if she wanted to try dating officially. I don't want to rush you, he'd said. But I also don't want to pretend we're just friends when I have real feelings for you. Naomi had been scared. The last time she trusted someone with her heart, it had ended in betrayal and humiliation. But she also recognized that Trevor wasn't Derek. He'd proven over months of friendship that he was genuine, kind, and worthy of trust. Okay, she'd said. Let's try. The relationship had progressed slowly, which was perfect for both of them. Trevor understood she had a company to run and a life to rebuild. He didn't pressure her for more time or attention than she could give. He flew to visit her when his schedule allowed, and she visited Seattle when she could get away. Last week he'd come to stay for a few days. They'd had dinner at her place, cooked together, and talked late into the night about everything and nothing. It felt natural and easy in a way her relationship with Derek never had. I have something to tell you, Trevor had said as they were cleaning up after dinner. What is it? I'm opening an office in your city. The Seattle market is getting crowded, and I've been thinking about expansion. I was going to ask if you'd be okay with that, with me being around more often. Naomi had felt something unfold in her chest. Not panic or fear, but possibility. I'd like that. Yeah, I really would. They'd kissed then, and it was different from anything Naomi had experienced with Derek. There was respect in it and care and the promise of something real. But romance wasn't the only new beginning in Naomi's life. She'd also started a foundation, the Bennett Foundation for Women in Business. Its mission was to help women leave toxic work environments or marriages and rebuild their careers and lives. The foundation provided grants, mentorship, legal support, and business training. In its first 6 months, it had helped 43 women start new chapters. Some were leaving abusive marriages. Others were escaping toxic workplaces. All of them needed support, resources, and someone who believed in them. Naomi funded the foundation entirely herself, using profits from the company and her own salary. It was important to her that women in similar situations to what she'd faced had options and opportunities. One of the foundation's beneficiaries was a woman named Sienna who'd been stuck in a marriage with a man who'd controlled all their finances. She'd reached out to the foundation desperate for help. I have no money of my own, Sienna had explained during their first call. I can't leave because I don't have anywhere to go or any way to support myself. The foundation had helped Sienna find a lawyer, secured temporary housing, and provided job training. 6 months later, Sienna had her own apartment, a good job, and was filing for divorce on her terms. You saved my life, Sienna had told Naomi at a foundation event last month. I thought I was trapped forever. You showed me I had options. You saved your own life, Naomi had corrected gently. You made the choice to reach out, to ask for help, to do the work. I just provided resources. Stories like Sienna's made all the long hours and hard work worthwhile. Naomi had turned her own trauma into something meaningful that helped others. That felt like the best possible outcome. Back at the company, former employees from Derek's regime occasionally tried to return. Last month, one of the senior managers who'd been fired but not criminally charged had applied for a position. He has experience and skills we could use, Jennifer had noted, reviewing the application. No, Naomi had said firmly. He knew what Derek was doing. He might not have participated directly, but he enabled it by staying silent. That's not someone I want on our team. I figured that would be your answer. Just wanted to check. Naomi had developed a reputation in the industry for having high standards for ethics and integrity. Some people thought she was too harsh, too unforgiving. But she'd seen what happened when you let small compromises slide. They grew into big ones. She wasn't going to let that happen at her company. The 1-year anniversary of the Gala was coming up in 2 weeks. Naomi had decided to host another event at the same venue, not to relive the trauma, but to celebrate how far the company had come. Are you sure about this? Angela had asked when Naomi mentioned the plan. Won't it bring back bad memories? Maybe, Naomi had admitted. But I don't want that night to define me. I want to reclaim that space and make new, better memories. The new gala would be different. It would celebrate the entire company, not just executives. Every employee would be invited and treated as a VIP. There would be awards for innovation, integrity, and teamwork. It would be about what Bennett Technologies was becoming, not what Harrison Technologies had been. Trevor was flying in for the event. Naomi was nervous about him being there, about mixing her professional and personal lives, but also excited to have him by her side. I want to meet the people you work with, he'd said. I want to see this company you've built. The morning of the gala, Naomi received an email from Derek's lawyer. Derek was being moved to a minimum security facility for good behavior. He'd be eligible for parole in 3 more years. The news didn't upset her the way it might have a year ago. Derek's sentence was what it was. He'd serve his time and eventually be released. That was justice, even if it wasn't perfect. She deleted the email and focused on getting ready for the gala. This time she wasn't worried about proving anything or fitting in or being dismissed. This time she was the one setting the tone, making the rules, and determining what mattered. She wore a silver dress that made her feel powerful and beautiful. Trevor picked her up in a car service, looking handsome in his tuxedo. You look stunning, he said, offering his arm. You clean up pretty well yourself. They arrived at the Riverside Hotel together, walking into the ballroom as partners. The space had been transformed. Instead of rigid table arrangements, there were comfortable lounges and mix and mingle areas. Instead of a clear hierarchy of seating, everyone had equal access to everything. The vibe was celebration, not competition. Employees greeted Naomi warmly. Several introduced themselves to Trevor, who was charming and genuinely interested in their work. Naomi watched him interact with her team and felt something settle in her chest. This was what a real partnership looked like. Jennifer found them near the bar. Boss, we need you for a minute. There's someone who wants to meet you. The someone was a reporter from a major tech publication who wanted to interview Naomi about the company's turnaround. I'm here to celebrate with my team, Naomi said politely. But I'd be happy to schedule something for next week. Fair enough. But can I ask one quick question? What's your advice for other people who find themselves in situations like yours? Was betrayed, diminished, unsure how to move forward? Naomi thought about that. Don't make yourself small to fit someone else's vision of who you should be. If someone in your life makes you feel worthless, the problem isn't you, it's them. And you have more power than you think you do. You just have to be brave enough to use it. The reporter smiled. That's going to be a great quote. Later, Naomi gave a speech to the assembled employees. 1 year ago, I stood on this stage and revealed some painful truths. Tonight, I want to celebrate some beautiful ones. This company has achieved things I didn't think were possible. We've doubled our revenue, created incredible products, and built a workplace where people actually want to come to work. She paused, looking around at the faces watching her. But the numbers aren't what I'm most proud of. I'm proud that when you see something wrong, you speak up. I'm proud that you support each other and celebrate each other's wins. I'm proud that we've created a culture based on merit, integrity, and mutual respect. That's what makes Bennett Technologies special. The applause was genuine and enthusiastic. Naomi stepped off the stage feeling lighter than she had in years. As the evening wound down, she and Trevor found a quiet corner to talk. This is really something, Trevor said, gesturing to the happy employees around them. You built all of this in 1 year. We built it, Naomi corrected. I couldn't have done any of this alone. Still, you took a disaster and turned it into triumph. That takes vision and courage. I just did what needed to be done. Trevor smiled and took her hand. That's what makes you special, Naomi. You don't see yourself as a hero. You just see yourself as someone who did what was necessary. But from where I'm standing, you're pretty heroic. Naomi laughed and leaned into him. A year ago, she couldn't have imagined being here, happy, successful, with someone who truly valued her. A year ago, she'd been sitting at the back table, feeling worthless and invisible. How things change. 2 years after the gala that changed everything, Naomi sat in her corner office reviewing the latest financial reports. Bennett Technologies had just closed a record-breaking quarter with revenue of $30 million, a 50% increase from Derek's highest numbers. The company now employed 340 people and had been named one of the best places to work in the industry. But what made Naomi proudest wasn't the numbers. It was the culture. Employees weren't afraid to speak up anymore. Innovation came from all levels, not just the top. People actually enjoyed their work and supported each other. Jennifer knocked on her door. Got a minute? Always. Come in. Jennifer sat down with a satisfied smile. I just got off the phone with our biggest client. They're renewing their contract and doubling their order. They specifically said they're doing it because they trust our leadership and product quality. That's fantastic. Make sure Ashley's team knows, they've been working so hard on those security updates. Already done. Also, I have news. Remember how Derek killed that AI integration project because he thought it was too complex? The one you kept telling him would be revolutionary? That's the one. I got approval to restart it quietly last month. We just finished the prototype and Naomi, it's incredible. If we can bring this to market, we'll be years ahead of our competitors. Naomi leaned back in her chair, grinning. See? This is what happens when you listen to talented people instead of ignoring them. Show me what you've got. They spent the next hour discussing the AI project, its potential applications, and the timeline for development. This was the work Naomi loved: strategic planning, innovation, building something meaningful. It was so different from the dysfunction of Derek's regime. That afternoon, Naomi had a board meeting. Robert had retired last year, and the new chairman was a woman named Diane Foster who'd spent 20 years in the tech industry. The board was more diverse now too, 3 women and 4 men, representing different backgrounds and perspectives. First item on the agenda, Diane began. Our valuation has been updated. Bennett Technologies is now worth $120 million. The number hung in the air. When Naomi had bought the company, it had been worth maybe $20 million on a generous day. She'd increased its value 6-fold in 2 years. The board wants to discuss next steps, Diane continued. We've had inquiries from several larger companies interested in acquiring us. The offers range from $150 to $200 million. Naomi shook her head immediately. No, we're not selling. Can I ask why? That's a significant return on your investment. Because this company isn't just an investment to me. It's people's livelihoods. It's the foundation I started. It's proof that integrity and success aren't mutually exclusive. Naomi looked around the table. I didn't save this company just to cash out and let someone else potentially destroy what we've built. The board members nodded, looking relieved. Several of them had been worried Naomi might take a buyout offer. However, Naomi continued, I do want to discuss succession planning. I'm 42 years old. I have no interest in running this company forever. I want to make sure that when I do step back, we have strong leadership ready to take over. Jennifer is the obvious candidate for CEO eventually, but we should develop other leaders too. They spent the rest of the meeting discussing talent development, leadership training, and long-term planning. This was what good corporate governance looked like: thinking years ahead, building sustainable systems, preparing for the future. That evening, Naomi had dinner with Trevor at their favorite Italian restaurant. He'd officially moved to the city 6 months ago, opening the office he'd mentioned. They saw each other several times a week now, and the relationship had deepened into something solid and real. I got some interesting news today, Trevor said over pasta. A venture capital firm wants to invest in quantum solutions. They're offering enough money for me to expand into 3 new markets. That's amazing. Are you going to take it? I think so. But I wanted to talk to you first. He set down his fork and looked at her seriously. This expansion would mean more travel, longer hours, more stress. I don't want to become the kind of person who puts work above everything else, above us. Naomi reached across the table and took his hand. Trevor, I run a company. I understand long hours and travel and stress. What matters is that we communicate, that we make time for each other, and that we support each other's goals. You've been incredibly supportive of my work. I want to do the same for you. You're sure? Completely. Take the investment. Build your empire. Just don't forget to call me occasionally. He laughed and kissed her hand. I love you, you know that? It was the first time either of them had said those words. Naomi felt tears prick her eyes. I love you too. The moment was perfect and genuine, and nothing like the hollow declarations she'd exchanged with Derek over the years. This was real love, built on mutual respect, shared values, and genuine care for each other's well-being and success. Later that week, Naomi received an unexpected letter. It was from someone named Christina Harper, and it took Naomi a moment to place the name. Then she remembered, Christina had been Derek's executive assistant before Vanessa. She'd left the company abruptly during Derek's regime, and no one had known why. The letter explained everything. Dear Ms. Bennett, it began. I saw your story in the news and felt I needed to reach out. 3 years ago, I worked for Derek Harrison. He made advances toward me repeatedly. When I rejected him, he made my work life miserable until I had no choice but to quit. I was too scared to report him because he was powerful and I was nobody. He made me sign an NDA as part of my severance, so I couldn't even tell anyone why I left. But seeing what you did, exposing him, holding him accountable, gave me courage. I want to share my story too if it can help prevent this from happening to someone else. Naomi called Christina immediately. Thank you for reaching out, Naomi said. I'm so sorry that happened to you. I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner, Christina said, her voice shaky. Maybe if I had, you wouldn't have had to go through what you did. Maybe Vanessa wouldn't have gotten involved with him. You were the victim. You have nothing to apologize for. Naomi thought for a moment. If you're willing, I'd like to help you. The Bennett Foundation has legal resources. We can help you challenge that NDA and tell your story properly. And if you want to pursue legal action against Derek for harassment, we can help with that too. Christina was quiet for a moment. Would it even matter? He's already in prison. It would matter because other women deserve to know the full extent of what he did. And it would matter because you deserve acknowledgement and justice for what happened to you. Over the next few months, Christina worked with the foundation's lawyers. The NDA was ruled unenforceable since it was used to cover up harassment. Christina gave an interview to a major news outlet detailing Derek's behavior. 2 other women came forward with similar stories after seeing Christina's interview. The stories painted a picture of Derek as not just a financial criminal but a predator who'd used his position of power to abuse women for years. Naomi felt sick reading the accounts but also grateful that these women were finally being heard. Vanessa read the stories too from prison. She sent Naomi another letter, this time very different from before. I was a fool, Vanessa wrote. I thought Derek loved me. I thought I was special. Reading these other women's stories, I realized I was just another person he used. He manipulated me the same way he manipulated them. I'm not making excuses for what I did. I deserve to be here. But I want you to know that I'm sorry. Not just for getting caught but for what I did to you and to the company. You didn't deserve any of it. Naomi read the letter twice. The apology seemed more genuine than before, more self-aware. But it didn't change anything. Vanessa had made her choices and had to live with the consequences. She wrote back a brief response. I accept your apology. Use your time to become a better person. Don't contact me again. That felt like closure. Vanessa was no longer a threat or even a significant presence in Naomi's life. She was just someone who'd made terrible choices and was paying for them. Derek, meanwhile, was still in prison and would be for several more years. His parole hearing had been denied after Christina and the other women came forward. The parole board decided he needed to serve his full sentence. Naomi received a final letter from Derek after the parole denial. You've destroyed my entire life, he wrote. I've lost everything, my career, my freedom, my reputation. Are you happy now? Is this what you wanted? You got your revenge. I hope it was worth it. Naomi read the letter with cold detachment. Even now, after everything, Derek saw himself as the victim. He blamed her for destroying his life, as if she'd forced him to steal millions of dollars, cheat on her, and sexually harass his employees. He still didn't understand that he'd destroyed his own life through his own choices. She didn't write back. There was nothing left to say. The 2-year anniversary gala approached, and this time it was being held in a new venue, a modern event space that Bennett Technologies had recently purchased for corporate events. The company was hosting it as a celebration but also as a fundraiser for the Bennett Foundation. The theme was Rising Together, celebrating not just the company's success but the success of all the women the foundation had helped. Several beneficiaries were invited to share their stories. Sienna, the woman who'd escaped her controlling marriage, spoke about starting her own small business with a foundation grant. Ashley, who'd gone from junior developer to director, talked about the importance of workplaces that value talent over politics. Christina shared her story of finding her voice again after years of silence. When Naomi took the stage, she looked out at a room full of people who'd been transformed in one way or another by the events of the past 2 years. 2 years ago, my husband told me I wasn't important enough to sit at his table, she began. He wanted me to know my place, in the back, out of sight, insignificant. Today I own the table. I own the whole room. I own the company. And I've learned something important. The people who try to diminish you are usually afraid of your power. She paused, letting that sink in. Derek was afraid of me. He had to be, or he wouldn't have worked so hard to keep me small. He knew that if I remembered who I was, a successful, intelligent, capable woman, I'd be a threat to his lies and his crimes. So he spent years trying to convince me I was worthless. And for a while, I believed him. Naomi looked at Trevor, sitting in the front row, smiling at her. She looked at Angela, her best friend who'd stood by her through everything. She looked at Jennifer and Ashley and all the talented people who made the company successful. She looked at the foundation beneficiaries who'd rebuilt their lives. But here's the truth, you can't diminish someone forever. Eventually, they remember who they are. They remember their strength. They remember they have choices and power and worth. And when that happens, watch out. The room erupted in applause. I didn't set out to be a hero or a role model, Naomi continued. I just set out to survive. To reclaim my dignity. To prove that I mattered. Along the way, I saved a company, helped other women, and found genuine love and happiness. I built something meaningful out of something painful. She smiled at the crowd. That's available to all of you. Whatever situation you're in, whatever person is trying to keep you small, remember, you have more power than you think. You just have to be brave enough to use it. And when you do, you might surprise yourself with what you're capable of achieving. The applause continued as Naomi stepped off the stage. Trevor was waiting with a hug. Angela was wiping away tears. Jennifer was grinning proudly. Later, as the event wound down, Naomi stood at the window of the venue looking out at the city lights. She thought about the journey from that first gala to this one. From humiliation to victory. From worthlessness to worth. She thought about Derek in his prison cell, still believing he was the victim. She thought about Vanessa serving her sentence. She thought about all the people who'd enabled the corruption and faced consequences. But mostly she thought about everyone who'd been saved, the employees who now had good jobs and a healthy workplace, the women who'd escaped toxic situations, the company that was thriving, and herself. She'd started this journey wanting revenge. She'd ended it finding redemption. Trevor came up beside her, slipping his arm around her waist. What are you thinking about? How far I've come. How different my life is now. Better? Naomi leaned into him, feeling content and complete in a way she never had with Derek. So much better. I didn't just survive what happened. I transformed it into something good. Something meaningful. You're amazing, you know that? She smiled. I'm starting to believe it. They stood there together, looking out at the city, at the future, at all the possibilities ahead. Naomi had proven she was more than the woman Derek had tried to diminish. She was a successful CEO, a foundation founder, a survivor, and a woman in love with someone who truly valued her. She was exactly who she was always meant to be, powerful, successful, and free. And that was the best revenge of all.